Hello, everybody. David Bernori here. Talking to you from beautiful Vienna, Virginia. A little cloudy here. I don't know why the lighting's not good, but I'm not a lighting guy, so I'm not going to be able to fix it. This is the last time I am going to be making a video for this week's class. More about that later. Today's topic, exciting topic, is state budget politics and policy. Woo! So first thing you should know. I have to throw out my entire lecture. Every state is facing a budget shortfall right now. Every state, billions of dollars, right? Because of the damn virus, and so consumption's down, so sales taxes are down. Hospitality taxes, hotel taxes, restaurant taxes, meal taxes, rental car taxes, airplane taxes, way down, obviously. Because people are getting laid off, income taxes are down. Corporate income taxes are going to be down. Not that that matters that much, but the personal income tax can be way down. Very bad. Basically, every tax is going to be down in every state, right? So every state's going to face some sort of budget shortfall. So that's the first budget thing you should know. We haven't seen this since the financial crisis, 2009-10. Before that, 9/11 a little bit, but not as great. And there's been a few others. We've had a number of these over the years. This one is particularly bad, though, from a revenue standpoint. Okay, so first thing you should know and learn is that all states, this is why it's important, all states have balanced budget requirements. Either constitutionally mandated or statutorily mandated, and they balance their budget. And this is a big deal, and they don't have a lot of discretion. Now, where they do have some discretion, and if it wasn't for the virus, I'd talk about this a lot because I think it's fun. It's kind of a myth, right? Conservatives like to point to the states and their balanced budget requirements as a model that the federal government should use back when conservatives cared about deficits. I'm not sure anybody cares anymore, but the balanced budget requirements are only operating budgets. So states are actually hundreds of billions, $1 trillion in debt because they can borrow money for capital expenditures, roads, bridges, buildings, stuff like that. The other thing that states do that puts them in debt, and it's actually kind of a terrible thing, is they underfund their pension plans. So Illinois, New Jersey, there's a bunch of states that have been doing this for years. So they have all these state employees, and sometimes the states have to pay for the pension plans for for teachers and things like that, and they underfund them. And that's a disaster. But that's debt as well, because someday you're going to have to pay these people's pensions, and you're not going to have the returns on if you were fully funding it as you go forward. You can go look that up on the internet. So what I want to talk about for a few minutes, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, although we could spend weeks on it, and I will be spending weeks on it, is so from a budget perspective, what is the state's response to the COVID-19 financial crisis? So you were probably wondering that. What do you do? So the states are $1 billion in the hole, billions of dollars in the hole, 21 billion in New York alone, 7 or 8 billion in Illinois. So it's terrible. Excuse me. So what are you going to do? So I've been asked actually to advise some states on responses and what they should do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what the state should do. and why, and then maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you won't. I hope you do. So what are the states going to do? Or what should the states do? The first thing the states are going to do, in all honesty, um, well, you know what? Let me back up 1 second. There's an argument that this crisis, especially if it ends soon, will be different than past financial crises. Past financial crises involve fundamental problems with the economy. This was an external hit on the economy, not something that was a problem with the operating economy. In fact, honestly, employment was high, stock market was high, GDP was high, consumer confidence was high, all that other stuff was good. Um, the economy was pretty robust before the shutdown. So the idea is why it's different is if the economy, if the shutdown ends, you might be able to get back quicker. The other thing is, remember what the problem is. The problem right now is no consumer spending, right? Because the stores are all closed, and massive layoffs for a lot of people. So here's what the states should not do. So I'm going to start with what they should not do, because that's actually what I was asked by a couple of states. What shouldn't we do? We don't want to hurt things. I personally believe that imposing higher business taxes will be bad. By the way, you're going to have to raise taxes. No doubt about that. Raising higher business taxes, whether it's god-awful gross receipts taxes or corporate income taxes or franchise taxes, I think is a bad idea. One, it's not going to be very fulfilling right now because states are all broke. I'm sorry, the businesses are broke, so they're not earning a lot of profit. So there's not a lot of money there. The other problem is businesses are closing down or slowing down. The last thing we want to do is curb reopening. So I personally believe that business taxation, business entity taxation is probably not the way to go. And that is not, by the way, I'm not saying that from a philosophical standpoint. I just don't think it's very practical. There has been some talk about maybe doing wealth taxes. Like maybe it's time to impose a wealth tax, a state wealth tax. And we've heard this before, and certainly we've heard it on a federal level. That on a philosophical level, I cannot stand. However, it's also a bad idea. States cannot impose wealth taxes. The federal government can, maybe. States cannot. Because I will guarantee you try to tax really rich people, they will move their assets and they'll move themselves the hell out of your state. That's just a fact. The other thing we shouldn't do is general sales tax rate hikes, right? So every state, the 45 states have the sales tax. So what states have done in the past is raise those rates on everybody. The problem is what we want to do is we want to immediately encourage consumption. When you tax something, you get less of it, and having a general sales tax increase will not help us. It's not going to help us. It's going to make buying stuff more expensive. Not good for the businesses, not good for the folks, the people who work in businesses and retail. So I think a general sales tax is a bad idea, personally. There's going to be some movement in states, and I think this is a bad idea because I hate excise taxes, to raise cigarette taxes and alcohol taxes and pot taxes and all that other nonsense. I think that's a bad idea too, because those businesses, the 7-Elevens, they've been hurting as well, and there's just not enough money there, honestly. Forget my philosophical problem with it. There's just not enough money. So what should they do? So next time when the bars reopen and you're hanging out at happy hour, you could say, you know what the state should have done is one, you got to use up your rainy day funds. So most states actually coming into this year, because the economies have been good the last couple of years, have pretty robust rainy day funds. California's got $20 billion in rainy day funds. So they're using them, and they're going to use them up fast, right? The rainy day funds will not cover the budget deficits. The hit is going to be too hard to cover to be solved by the rainy day funds. You got to use the rainy day funds. Second thing that states are going to do is they're going to reduce spending. And I think that's just a natural belt tightening. The problem is, remember what states spend their money on? They spend their money on healthcare. And that's not something we're going to spend less money on right now. And they also spend it on education. You might be able to cut back on that a little bit. I saw recently Arizona State's laying off half the employees in the university. You could do a little bit of that. But honestly, I don't think there's a lot of fat in state budgets. So I don't think you're going to be able to do that. But they're going to do a little bit. So what I would do, my big ticket item is I would temporarily increase the top personal income tax rates in the 41 states that have a personal income tax. Wealthier people like me, honestly, who are still getting paid, I think it's okay for the states to go in and say, if you make over 100,000 or 150,000 or whatever the number is from a budget standpoint, we're gonna tax you another 1% or whatever whatever that number is, 1.5%, for the next year or the next 2 years. I think that's okay. I think it would be fair, actually, to ask the people who have not suffered as much financially to contribute. The real hardcore conservatives don't like that. I don't care, because you're gonna have to raise the money somehow. And this is probably the best way to do it. Now, this is not going to help you in Texas or in Florida or the states that don't have a personal income tax, in Tennessee. And that's a problem, because they have big budget deficits as well. But it's going to help you in the other 41 states. The other idea, which would work in Texas, is to do some sales tax broadening to include digital services. You want to see something that has not been hit by the coronavirus financial problems, and that is digital goods and services, right? People are buying stuff through their computers. They're buying movies, they're buying books, they're buying games, all kinds of stuff, right? In probably 30 out of the 45 states, those are not taxed, right? And there's a lot of money on the table there. So what I would do if I was those states that did not tax digital goods and services, I'd go in immediately and start taxing them. The business community won't like that too much, but again, you're going to have to tax something. Why not tax that which has largely escaped the devastation of the rest of the economy? Another thing that states could do is they could expand taxation of services in general. That politically, it's hard to tax lawyers and doctors and stuff like that, and it's never worked before. I'm not sure why it would work now. It would be a good idea. But my two big ideas are personal income tax at the highest levels, and you can sell it if you sell it temporarily, and sales tax base expansion to include digital goods. I would also raise the gas tax for what that's worth. People aren't driving right now, and gasoline prices are real low. The oil gases are low. Now's the time to raise the gas tax, right? Because I don't know, oil's half of what it was in January. So it's probably a good idea. I think it's a very good idea, personally. Uh, okay, so I'm going to write you guys. I'm going to send you the exam. I'm going to email you the exam next week. It's very straightforward. It's easy. Don't worry about it. More importantly, I just want to say I'm sorry the semester ended the way it did. I miss you all. I really mean that. This has all been devastating. My mother turned 86 last week in South Carolina by herself, and I worry about her every day. And as you are probably worrying about your loved ones. So we'll get through this, and I want you to stay in touch. Social media, on the Twitter, on the LinkedIn, and if I can do anything for you, if I can write a letter of recommendation, I wrote one this week for a student. If I can write a letter of recommendation, I will. I give great references. I'll make you out to be the smartest person on the planet. If you want to talk phone or in person when we can someday, happy to talk to you about careers in state and local government. Not a lot going on right now on the career side of things, but happy to talk to you about it. I hope you stay in touch. If you are not graduating, take my classes Wednesday and Thursday night. A federalism class. Talk about something that's important. I'm teaching a class in federalism. And administrative law, also pretty interesting. Take my class. Get your friends to take my class. Wednesdays, Thursdays after class, I'll be at the Union Trust Bar on 15th Street. Drinks are on me, I promise. I miss you all. And stay in touch. Look for the exam this week. It'll be coming via email.